Yeah. Oh, have you? Have you? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll try to be a good attendee. Good afternoon and welcome to the March 23rd meeting of the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. I'll call this meeting to order and ask for the introductory comments, please.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those in attendance, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representatives to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. All speakers at the podium, please remove your face mask before speaking into the microphone. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the Planning Department. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on all the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to the district court.
Thank you. Now I'd ask for a roll call of commissioners present, please.
Certainly. Fox?
Here.
Duell?
Here.
McKay?
Here.
Green?
Here.
Bill Johnson is absent. Blick? Josh Blick is absent. Nix? Foster?
Here.
Warren?
Here.
Joe Johnson?
Here.
Miles?
Here.
Hartman?
Here.
Aldridge? Williams Bay?
Here.
I show 12 members present and 2 absent.
Thank you. You received minutes of the March 9th meeting. I do have one correction to note. The header date on pages 2 to 27 was carried over from the previous meeting. It's been corrected and will be changed in the final minutes. Are there any other corrections or additions, or I would entertain a motion for
I move for approval with that change.
Motion from Joe Johnson, second from Commissioner Hartman. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And we have 5 persons
I'll be
absent.
abstaining.
Pardon me?
I'll be abstaining.
Okay.
Joe Johnson is an abstention, so he can't make the
Oh,
motion.
Joe, you're an abstention because we showed you out early of the previous meeting, so I'd need somebody else to make a motion, please.
Move
Motion,
that we approve.
Motion from Commissioner Green. Can I keep the second from Commissioner Hartman?
You may.
The persons absent who would abstain, McKay, Blick, Nix, Warren, Miles, and Johnson. Joe Johnson. The others, now, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
abstaining, any nays? Good Lord, how complicated can this get? Anyone abstaining indicate by saying aye. Okay.
Aye.
That's two,
Aye.
3 of those present, 4 of those present. Because Blick's not here and Joe is gone, and Bill is gone, and Joe is here. There, this motion passes. I'll let you give the final count. It's complicated. See, they're even having to consult on how many. We need the thing the city council has where it shows on the board. Eight in favor, 2 absent. Yeah, 8-0.
Actually, here, 705.
705.
And it took a moment because of Joe Johnson's abstention because he was only here for part of the meeting. So
Right.
That's
So
what the math was.
Blick abstained, but he's not here.
No. The
We
abstentions
need a roll call
are-
vote.
Yeah, the abstentions are, those who were absent from
Okay.
the meeting were McKay, Nix, Warren, and Miles.
Okay.
And then Joe, because he left early.
Right, so
There's
that's
your 5.
5. Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarification. Moving on to the subdivision items. Thank you. The minutes are approved. Now we'll walk through the agenda to identify those items that we can take on consent. The first item is subdivision, item 2.1.1, subdivision 2022-00050. This is a final plat at Kellogg Drive and South Maze Road. Anyone in the commission want to hear this case? Anyone present in chambers want to hear this case? Is there anyone participating virtually who'd like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take 2.11 on consent. Item 2.1.2, subdivision 2023-00010, final plat for Via Christi Village at West Central, just north of McLean Boulevard. Does anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Anyone in the chambers want to hear this case? Anyone participating virtually who would like to hear this case? Final plat Via Christi Villages. Hearing none, we'll take that on consent. Item 2.1.3, subdivision 2023-00011, final plat at 1557 North Poplar. Anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Anyone in chambers want to hear this case? Anyone participating virtually want to hear this case? We'll take that item on consent.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve items 2.11, 2.12, and 2.13.
Motion from Commissioner Green, second from Commissioner Warren. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Item passes 12-0. Look how fast we did the math on that. Public hearing, item 2.2. This is a street renaming, the DER 2022-12. And I do understand, do we have anyone on the commission who wants to hear this case? We did clarify we could take it on consent if there's no one who wants to hear the case. Anyone on the commission who wants to hear this case? Anyone in chambers who would like to hear this case? Anyone participating virtually? This is the renaming of street from West Squaw Lane to West Delano Avenue. Hearing none, we can take this item on consent.
I'd like to move that we approve 2.2.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Foster. Second from Commissioner McKay. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by
Aye.
saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 12-0. Moving on to public hearing vacation items. This is item 3.1. Vacation item 2023 quadruple 03 near 37th Street and North Ridge Road. Is there anyone on the commission who would like to hear this case? Anyone in chambers who would like to hear this case? Anyone participating virtually who would like to hear this case?
I move for approval of 3.1.
Motion from Commissioner Joe Johnson,
Second.
second from Commissioner Miles. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 12-0. Moving on to public hearing items. Item 4.1, conditional use 2023 quadruple 03 located at 7136 West Central. Is there anyone on the commission who would like to hear this case? Oh, we have to hear it. Yes, I'm sorry. We will hear this case because the recommendation is for denial. Is the agent in the room? Gotcha. Item 4.2, conditional use 2023 quadruple 04. This is at 4717 East Douglas. Anyone on the commission who would like to hear this case? So interesting, come on. Anyone, is there anyone in? Yeah, we have a commissioner who would like to hear this case, so we will hear it. And we can then return to 4.1. So Philip, could you give us the staff report, please?
Yes, good afternoon, Planning Commission. Philip Zevenbergen with planning staff. Con 2303 is a request for a conditional use in limited commercial zoning on the northeast corner of Ridge and West Central. At 7136 West Central Avenue, the conditional use request is to allow vehicle and equipment sales outdoor. Does this help?
Really soft.
It's on a little bit. Paul, is there anything you can do about the volume in the chambers here? Okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I know we have to balance feedback with the mic and where the speakers are, so I'll start over. Conditional use request 2303 is a conditional use request for vehicle and equipment sales in limited commercial zoning on the northeast corner of West Central and North Ridge at 7136 West Central. The property is currently developed with a defunct gas station, which has been this way for the last 5 to 7 years or so. The applicant is intending to use the existing car wash building on the site for their offices. They're going to be retaining the canopy over what was the initial office space for the convenience store. And as you can see on the site plan, then develop the rest of the site for the customer parking as well as the display parking. They intend to keep the pylon sign. There's parking lot screening along Central and Ridge. Solid screening fence is not required on either side because of the limited commercial zoning. Even though on the north side of the property, there are apartments abutting to the north, they're in limited commercial zoning. And the screening requirements are based off of zoning districts and not what the use is. Vehicle and equipment sales must adhere to supplementary use regulations found in section 3D6X. There's a review of those in your staff report. I've pretty much covered most of them. Most of those regulations are, if this is approved, they have to comply with those things. One thing I want to note is that in limited commercial zoning, if this is approved, that they're not allowed to have elevated platforms. It does not appear that they were intending to have any of those anyway. As I mentioned before, properties to the north are limited commercial with apartments. Property to the east is zone limited commercial, and it is a kind of an auto accessory store. They also install the accessories that they install. There's also restaurants to the east. Property to the west is limited commercial. This parcel is vacant, but it's technically part of this larger gas station area. There's a liquor store. Property to the southwest is limited commercial as well, with large kind of big box retail stores and some vacant retail areas. Property to the south is limited commercial with a bank on the corner. You got some out parcels with restaurants and other commercial uses, and a larger retail shopping center to the south as well. Overall, this area is developed with commercial uses. However, when it comes to car lots, we always we treat them kind of in a special way, just because it's typically what we've seen historically is that when one car lot shows up, then more tend to want to come behind it. So we take a little bit of a deeper look, and truly car lots are tricky cases in most situations. The nearest car lots in this location are either a mile to the east or a mile to the west. To the east, you have them at Central and I-235. There's 3 of them at that location. To the west, you have it at Central and Tyler. There's 2 of them at that location, but there are no car lots in the immediate vicinity other than a mile away, east or west from here. In terms of review with our plans and policies, this kind of gets into the meat of staff's recommendation for denial. Though it's a commercial corner per development standards, or how it's developed right now, the comprehensive plan identifies it as appropriate for residential development. It is within the established central area. That's what this blue line indicates. Anything to the right of the blue line is in the ECA. Staff found that the requested conditional use is in partial conformance with the locational guidelines of the community unit plan, or the community investments plan. The guidelines encourage major commercial and employment centers to be located at the intersections of arterial streets, so that would be indicative of promoting this type of development at this location. The guidelines encourage higher density residential uses and neighborhoods serving retail and office uses to be used as buffers between lower density residential and the major commercial areas. This is indicative of how this intersection is developed. You got the commercial at the intersection, you have higher density residential in this area over here. And then you don't get to lower density residential until you actually get off of the map that you see in front of you there. It's much farther to the north. So in a sense, the lower intensity commercial uses or the higher intensity residential uses are buffering the major intersection from the lower intensity residential. Where it is not in conformance with the community investments plan is the locational guidelines for the established central area. This promotes mixed-use redevelopment of existing commercial centers along arterial streets and encourages infill development that maximizes public investment. The guidelines align more closely with residential land use category of the future growth concept map. And again, these guidelines promote mixed-use development. Multifamily already exists at this location, and it abuts the sites and is developed next to existing commercial uses. The site could be redeveloped in such a way to promote further mixed-use development with limited commercial zoning, though it's been underutilized for some time. There's a wide variety of commercial uses and neighborhood serving uses that could be developed on this site adjacent to the residential to promote more and more of a mixed-use type of development in the area, which better aligns with the guidelines for the established central area. As I mentioned before, it's in the Wichita Places for People plan. It is in partial conformance, or it's not in conformance with this one. Strategy number 6 encourages infill development that is contextual to the environment. The context with the environment is commercial, retail, and multifamily residential. The context of the nearest vehicle, vehicle sales law, as we talked about, is a mile to the east or the west. This is an intersection. It's a node within the established central area, which the Places for People plan space takes special attention to and encourages redevelopment in more of a walkable, mixed-use type of environment versus something that's a little bit more auto-oriented, like a car lot, especially when you have 2 transit lines that cross at this intersection. It's just one of those things where staff kind of struggled with how to approach this, and really we took the approach of promoting the guidelines of the Wichita Places for People plan, especially knowing we have the opportunity to redevelop a corner of a node within the established central area. And so truly we're resting on the guidelines of the Wichita Places People plan for the basis of our denial recommendation. Again, we are recommending denial. As always, there are conditions of approval should the board feel that it is appropriate and want to recommend approval. Those are in your staff report at page 6. I have not heard any public comments regarding this application, and it will be going to DAB in the beginning of April. Go through the rest of our slides. This is looking at the property. Since the photos have been taken, this center building under the canopy has been demolished. Again, this is the existing car wash building that will be, if approved, will be utilized for the office space. This is looking to the northeast of the location. This is that auto accessories store and the restaurants. You can see the multifamily behind it. This is from the southwest corner of the intersection looking at the site. Again, there's a multifamily behind it. This is looking at the property that is south of the site. This is the bank, and you can see the larger retail center behind it. This is looking to the southwest. This is the large box retail that is to the southwest of the site. This is looking at the property east or west of this side, the liquor store and that gas station. This is looking to the south, the larger retail shopping center. With that, I can stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Nix?
So one of the first things that you said was that if it were to be approved and developed as a car lot, that additional car lots would follow. Was that part of your rationale for denying this?
We've typically seen that happen, like for example, when at Central and Hoover, we've seen two of the 3 car lots come in the last 2 years, where one was established for a while, and then it seems, we also see this along South Broadway.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with you. I just wonder about the rationale when we make a statement like that.
Commissioner Aldrich?
Yeah, a couple things. You know, you talk about the down the road about a mile, which is Hoover and Central, right there, and you look at the residentials around there that were literally butted pretty close up to those new lots that just popped up right there. At least here you got some sort of a buffer between the apartments and stuff back there. This property's been vacant for an awful long time. And something needs to happen there. And when you look across the street to the west, that was tore down, I don't know, maybe about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, and it's still sitting vacant. As far as Wichita places and people plan, people are gonna drive. They're not gonna walk even to go across the street over to where the old Hobby Lobby used to be and stuff like that. Access, especially what they're looking at the site plan, is going to be further north. It looks like a little bit further on the east side to help alleviate that where that drive is right now. It looks like, you know, I don't see why this property can't be utilized for something. And if you look at what they're trying to do right there, you're gonna limit the amount of vehicles that they're gonna be able to sell and everything, but I think it's based on their site plan that they're presenting, at least the concept of it. I think that it'll look a lot nicer and more presenting than what we have right there now. Just my thoughts.
I got several. Okay, I think Commissioner Foster was next.
Philip, I just am curious, are we required as a planning board if this is approved as a car sales lot? And in future, say the one across the street comes back and wants to be a car lot too, is the precedent established and we have to follow the precedent, or is it a separate case and we judge each case separately?
We judge each case separately.
Commissioner Williams-Bay?
Yes, Phyllis, I'm not sure I heard you or if you explained. Is the canopy going to be removed or is that going to be existing?
My understanding that the canopy will stay.
Commissioner Green?
Yeah, I drove by there today, and the canopy is there with the building gone, and in fact, they've removed all of the pavement. They probably removed the tanks too that were underneath there. But my point, Philip, you were talking about having a buffer between commercial and, or in this case, limited commercial. And to the north of that, we have MF 29. And in reality, the limited commercial just adjacent to this property is also, would be lower than limited commercial. It's MF 29 basically. And so I guess I don't know what else these people could have done in this area that would have made it better than what they've got right now with the barrier between the commercial and the residential.
Any other questions for staff? If none, then we'd ask the applicant and agent to come forward, please, and tell us about your project, and you will have 10 minutes.
Can everybody hear me okay? All right. My name is Dustin Marsh. I am the agent for the applicant in this case. I don't want to repeat too many of the details in terms of existing site conditions that we're running into here on this site. I will just say that I think one of the major reasons for the fact that this site has stood undeveloped so long is just how tough it is to access the site. Southbound on Ridge Road, you can't take a left turn into the site because of a curb median limiting that vehicular movement. And then if you're heading east on Central, same problem. So access into the site along with the parcel size is what's kind of making it challenging, I think, for any developer to come in here and put in a coffee shop or something that might lend itself a little bit better towards the people for places plan. Our project is for, and the reason for us to be here today is for the approval of our conditional use for vehicular sales. Our client is a citizen of Wichita, and he believes in investing back in the community that he lives in. And that's evident in this project. The Car Store USA, I don't know, there's a location, an east side location for the same development at Harry and Webb, a much larger facility, and it's done well over there. So we're trying to have a west side presence, much smaller in terms of size, but the property is going to have room to display around 30 to 35 cars. As Philip mentioned, the sales office would be a repurposing of the existing car wash. It would receive a full remodel, interior, exterior finish, and then the refinishing of the existing canopy that was over the convenience store. We'll also get a refresh as well as the landscaping, which was mentioned along Ridge and Central. Our site plan that we had submitted when we applied for the conditional use was in the early stages of our planning process. We are actually going to close down 2 of the 4 intersections or entry aprons that go into our site. The site plan that was submitted was early on. So we're going to be adding more green space, limiting ways cars get in and out of our property to make pedestrian safer and to make vehicular movement safer as well. We also will be putting in new LED lighting for security to make sure that people at that intersection feel safe on our property. So I think that'll be an improvement for the area. There'll be a spot for visitors to park, a few visitors parking spaces, as well as a couple employee parking spaces. Again, new concrete. The tanks were removed, I think, prior to the sale of this property. I don't know that for sure, but there are no fuel storage tanks below grade that we would have to run into. So With that, I'm happy to answer any questions on the project that you guys might have.
Commissioner Aldrich, thank you.
Yes, sir. If the event that the commission does recommend approval, do you support the staff recommendations and comments?
In terms of,
I don't know if you have a copy of.
I do.
Okay. On the conditions on page 6, 1 through 8, are you okay with all those?
Yeah, there won't, yeah. There won't be any, no maintenance. Yeah, we're good with it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nix?
Okay, your client, did you say you have a client on the east side? Is that your client, or do you just want to duplicate it on a smaller scale on the west side?
It's the same owner.
Same owner? Okay.
Same business owner, yeah. Sorry if I wasn't clear on that. Same business owner that has a larger facility on that side of town.
Other questions? Commissioner McKay? Okay. We haven't called for comment from the public. Do we need to do that? Okay. Is there anyone in chambers who would like to make a comment on this item? Is there anyone participating virtually who would like to make a comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to you, Commissioner McKay. Yeah, thank you.
Make a motion, we approve the conditional use subject to the 8 requirements of staff.
Second?
Any further discussion on this item? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, motion passes 12-0.
Thank you.
Next item. Christina, would you give us the staff report on item 4.2, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. Christina Reed with the Planning Department. This is case number Con 2023-04. We have the agent here today, Brent Allison. He is requesting a tavern and drinking establishment on a property zoned LC Limited Commercial District at 4717 East Douglas Avenue. The proposed use is to permit the service of alcohol as an accessory use to a hair salon, and staff is recommending approval. So the subject site here that's outlined on the aerial map is 1.4 acres in size and is currently developed with a strip mall. The applicant will use one suite of this building for the tavern and drinking establishment. Supplementary use regulations of the Unified Zoning Code require a conditional use for tavern and drinking establishment when it is within 300 feet of a residential zoning district. The need for the conditional use at this location is due to the fact that there is TF3 and SF5 single-family residential district zoning, which are located approximately 68 feet west and south of the subject property. Let's skip to the applicant's site plan here. Okay. The applicant's site plan demonstrates an existing parking lot on site that you can see where my mouse is that would satisfy the proposed tavern and drinking establishment's parking requirements of 1 parking space per 2 occupants. And there's an additional parking lot at the bottom of the site plan here that's directly south of the subject site. It's owned by the same applicant, and it can be used towards additional off-street parking requirement for all uses on the subject site. The character of the neighborhood is commercial on the major arterial streets and residential on the surrounding local streets. There are no zoning cases associated with this property. In terms of conformance to plans and policies, the request is in conformance with the Community Investments Plan. It recommends a subject site as appropriate for commercial uses. The request is also in conformance with the locational guidelines of the comprehensive plan. The proposed tavern and drinking establishment is located at the intersection of 2 2 arterial streets and will expand upon an existing business. A general development pattern guideline states that development should occur where necessary, supporting infrastructure and services exist or are planned for extension concurrently with development. The subject site is also in conformance with the Wichita Places for People Plan, which identifies the subject site as within a node. The requested conditional use will allow an existing business to expand and integrate into this small-scale strip mall. Based on the information available prior to the public hearings, planning staff recommends that the request be approved subject to the following conditions. The tavern and drinking establishment shall adhere to the supplementary use regulations. The tavern and drinking establishment shall be allowed only as accessory to a hair salon. The site shall be developed in general conformance with the approved site plan and in compliance with all Sydney ordinances. The parking lot shall be kept free of all trash and debris. There shall be no loitering, congregating, or excessive noise in the parking lot. No outdoor service or consumption of alcohol or outside loudspeakers. And the establishment shall be limited to 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. every day. And if the zoning administrator finds that there is a violation of any of the conditions of approval, they can declare the conditional use to be null and void. This recommendation is based on the following findings, which you can find in your staff report. I did receive one comment from the public, which I emailed to you guys. He is in support of the tavern and drinking establishment, and I have not heard any other comments. And this will go to the District 1 Advisory Board on April 3rd. And I will now stand for questions.
Any questions for Christina, Commissioner McKay?
Yes, within this little shopping center, there's probably 6 to 10 businesses already existing there. The application is for the whole block.
Yes.
So
So it could apply to the entire building, as long as they open up a hair
There'll be
salon.
one big beer joint. We got Watermark.
Well, Watermark would have to apply for an additional conditional use because they're not a hair salon.
That was my only question, is it's a whole big building, because it's a pretty good sized building. So, I don't know.
So, Christina, what you're saying is unless a hair salon is operating in the space, there can't be the tavern services.
That's one of the conditions of approval that we outlined in the report, that,
And so if the hair salons cease to operate, or if there was no one in the establishment having something done to their hair, does that mean they couldn't serve a drink? I mean, that's when you say accessory to the hair salon. Maybe I'm making this too complicated, but if there's a barbershop chair or a haircut chair and a person who knows how to cut hair, but nothing is happening, can we still go in there and have a drink? That's what I don't understand.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry? Okay.
J.R. Cox, Zoning Administrator, Metropolitan Area Planning Department. For the record, I think there's 2 questions there. The first is, if a hair salon ceases, then yes, they couldn't continue to operate a tavern or drinking establishment, which I assume is what this probably is. It's not a tavern.
Okay.
The second part of the question is, that'd be an enforcement nightmare. I don't know how I would handle that. I certainly, while I do need a haircut right now, I wouldn't need one every day.
Okay.
I guess my thought would be, as long as it is a bona fide hair salon, could someone come in and just get a drink? I suppose someone could, but that would not be the intent. That's not what this is intended to be. It's intended to serve you while you're getting your hair done, I assume.
So, okay.
JR, can bald people vote on this?
Commissioner Williams Bay.
Oh, I'm not gonna.
I think we're devolving, but Commissioner
They can
Williams
polish your
Bay.
hair,
we
can't
have-
they? You?
I guess it's kind of like the speakeasies of old, like I could create something anyway, we haven't heard from the agent, so Commissioner Williams Bay.
How do you control that?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
That's a good question. There's a lot of folks with no hair that might want to go in there and,
Yeah.
and have their hair done.
They could have their head polished.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, and I've been with all the bridesmaid groups to go get their hair done, and they bring their little wine bottle, but that was all in Kansas City. JR, you didn't miss anything. Okay. Okay, any other questions for staff? Then let's call the agent for, we can't wait to hear the story. Agent or applicant, perhaps.
Good afternoon. My name is Brent Allison. I'm an agent for Walter Morris.
Okay.
It is my business in Lincoln Heights that we're here asking for the conditional use for the alcohol sales.
Please tell us more.
I'm sorry?
Please tell us more.
Myself and my wife, we've been tenants of Lincoln Heights for 17 years now with the salon and the boutique aspect of it. We've been salon owners for 25 years. We've lived in the neighborhood for 25 years. We live 3 blocks away, so we have a vested interest in this area. So when the McMullen Jewelry, when they decided to retire, we've always been kind of interested in that space due to it being adjacent to ours and being able to expand into it. We've kicked around this idea for a long time. We've been to salons in other states that have this kind of concept, and it's very unique. It'll be the first one in Wichita. And to answer your question, yes, it's going to be connected to the salon physically interior. We have agreed with the landlord that the front door entrance to the space will not be open to the public until 4 o'clock. But it will be accessible through the salon and the boutique for those clients to come in and enjoy a beverage or whatever while they're in there, and the general public who's in there shopping in the boutique. Now, once activities in the salon cease for the evening, which is generally around 7:30, 8 o'clock, it can be closed off and the door opened to the general public for a typical drinking establishment. The issue, there's a couple of issues we have with the staff comments and conditions, though, is the closing hours of 10 o'clock. There's not a drinking establishment in town that closes at 10 o'clock. We're not going to be a 2 a.m. establishment at all. That I can stand here and tell you that will probably never happen. But we would like the ability to stay open past midnight should the case happen, such as New Year's Eve, a private event, something like that, if that should ever come about. Typically, our hours, as we're planning right now, are going to be 10 o'clock during the week and 11 or midnight on the weekends, based on how our crowd base is. So the issue with it being an accessory to the salon, that question was posed that should we decide to retire from the salon, sell the salon, but continue on with the bar establishment, that would be a little bit of an issue for us, so.
Commissioner Aldridge.
So basically, you're just gonna have a tavern that you might cut hair every once in a while.
I'm sorry?
So basically, it's just gonna be a tavern or a bar that you might, optional to have a haircut or a salon once in a while, your hair done. But the main thing is gonna wind up just being a drinking establishment, correct?
Yeah, it's gonna be a drinking establishment only. We will have no food offerings. Yeah, it can be a standalone entity should it ever come to that. We are putting in 2 accessible restroom facilities, so it would be a conforming space, which should it be separate. We currently have restrooms in our salon, so we're kind of going over and above the requirements in order to, facilitate its future use should they ever become separate.
Why not just do the application just for a bar then?
Yeah.
And that's the way it was kind of submitted. That's why I was kind of surprised when the conditions came back this way. Yes, it is connected to.
Okay. That makes sense now. Commissioner Warren, you had a question.
Well, I think you're trying to answer my question, but it's, I'm not clear. The condition that it be tied to the salon did not come from you, that came from staff? Okay, thank you.
So it is written currently that if the hair salon ceases, then the approval of this conditional use would also cease.
Would you be, as an applicant, would you be okay if we remove that, that aspect of the condition, that it be tied to a salon?
Yeah, I would prefer that be removed. One other condition was the outdoor service. We don't have a big sidewalk. We don't have a big patio area. But we would like to be able to, when we currently have seating out there for people to enjoy during the day. We're an east-facing building, so it's in the shade in the evening. We are pretty much the only business open beyond 6 o'clock. So we would like to be able to have some seating on the sidewalk, cordoned off area that people can enjoy a beverage out on the sidewalk in the evening. We're in no view of any residential properties. We're set back considerably from the streets, so, we just want to be afforded the same ability to have a successful business as our neighbors, basically. And we've got the hill across the street, the wine dive, Il Vicino, they all have outdoor seating areas. Of course, like I say, we won't be able to have anything to that extent.
Commissioner Hartman?
For staff, do they have to enclose that?
It would have to be contained, yes.
There would have to be some method of.
Some sort of a
containing the
barrier.
area to control the liquor.
Commissioner Foster?
When I read this, I was picturing something like Commissioner Fox mentioned, where people would come in to get their hair done and have a glass of wine. But this is basically a tavern or a drinking establishment. It's basically a drinking establishment. And given that it is, and if we treat it as just a drinking establishment, then there's no reason to make an accessory to a hair salon, even though it happens to have a door over to the hair salon, I don't think, and that unless there's some sort of weird legal requirement about hair and alcohol. But what question I'm having is, why is the entire building instead of just the individual parcel that, or part building that's going to actually be the drinking establishment part of this application? And I'm not sure if that's a question for you or a question for staff.
So this property is platted as one lot. And so in order to restrict it to a tenant space gets very difficult when you'd have to legally describe that portion of, unless we do it by site plan and it's indicated on the site plan, it's only, because we did it with round one at Town East Mall, where when they went for nightclub in the city to have their karaoke room, we did, they were all on parcel one, which is the whole mall, and they didn't want to allow that. And so like their CUP, their community unit plan, indicated like, within this area of parcel one. So you could potentially, knowing it's conditional use requires site plan approval, we could potentially restrict it to an area per site plan approval. Does that sound legally sound?
What I would point out with this area too is, as part of the shopping center, there are entrances to offices that are part of this building that open up into the neighborhood, not to the parking lot.
And that's what I'm concerned about, is if we approve it as shown with the entire parcel approved as a drinking establishment, I mean, I can't see, say, Watermark Books turning into a bar without a major community upheaval, but it could. We're saying it's okay by us.
Yeah. Staff, did you have a response to that comment?
Actually, we have some new information, so we're ready for it.
Okay. Commissioner McKay, you had a question? Yeah, what else did you figure out?
So, we wrote up the staff report based on our understanding from the application and what we understood of the case. The thing that we are looking into is how is the case advertised to the general public? And whether or not, since the wishes of the applicant are different than what our understanding of what they were asking for, the question is whether or not it was advertised based on which one. And so Philip is looking at it right now. And Philip, do you want to provide some overview or insight?
Actually, I'm thinking back to all the bad haircuts I've had in my life and how I wish that there would have been a place to drink before I drove home. So I'm really liking that connection idea.
Thank you.
So how it was advertised is, as Philip has indicated, reminded me, it's on, what's on your agenda is 4.2, is a conditional use request in the city to permit the service of alcohol as an accessory use to a hair salon. So that is in fact how it was advertised.
So is it reasonable for us to maybe defer this for?
And
I would look to Jeff, but I would say we probably want to advertise this so that members of the public have a better understand or accurate understanding about what is being asked.
I would feel much better about that.
I mean,
Joe McKay, Commissioner McKay.
My main concern is that we're doing the whole building. And like I said earlier, there's either 6 or 8, I don't know how many businesses in there. Most of them are bookstore, restaurant,
Clothing
barber shop,
store.
doctor's office, different things. And this goes in and all of a sudden they say, this is not good for us. Yet we've approved a whole building to become a bar now.
Yeah.
In a neighborhood with residential very, very, very close, right across the street.
Yeah.
I don't think the owners of the property would want that either.
no, absolutely not.
So that's knowing them very well, that I doubt if they would want it. So it's going to be a whole lot of clarification of what we're really doing before you can get my vote to approve this.
Commissioner Aldrich.
Question that I have for staff and the commission, would it be best to maybe defer this thing, and I hate deferring anything, and to have this thing maybe cleaned up? Cleaned up, clarified, taken care of, so we don't have all these other problems. The way it is right now, it's a mess.
Scott.
Yeah, we just had a closing date here on Monday, and so we're going to be advertising for that group of applications that came in. And so the soonest we could get it on would be April 27th, would be the next MAPC meeting that would allow us to advertise it to the public.
Commissioner Duell.
So are we suggesting that we defer this with the application coming back with a separate legal description for that one tenant?
I think our understanding is, knowing it's one lot and the ability to legally describe the tenant space could be cumbersome. I think we can take the steps, kind of what we did with the round one use in Town East Mall, where they indicated on a site plan a box and had language in there. So we can have a condition of approval to say the tavern and a drinking establishment is restricted to the area as indicated on the final site plan, to where it'll be indicated on the site plan it is only allowed in this area, which then prohibits it from being in any other tenant space in Lincoln Heights.
On the county records, it shows specific addresses for the businesses in this shopping center. Is it possible to use the physical addresses as an identifier for that legal?
They will all have a legal description.
I imagine that could be, but
You
I think
can, as like an also known as, or commonly known as aspect to it, as opposed to the full-blown meets and bounds legal. So, and I just want to say, if you technically are deferring under the code, it says there that if you defers to a date certain, you don't have to provide notice out. So in this case, you want to defer with the stipulation that notice be given.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, can I,
Commissioner Warren and then Foster.
Would you prefer to have us defer and clean it up that way, or would you like to go back to the original plan of tying it to the salon and not have the delay?
Yeah, I would prefer to move forward with it as an accessory use, if would prevent us from being deferred.
but would you prefer to have the request denied as opposed to being deferred? Because it's sounding like that's what's going to happen.
Well,
No. I mean, the Walter Morris family, the Boyds who own this building, they are the descendants of Walter Morris, who built this building. Their they're behind us for this project. I can guarantee you that they will never allow the entire building to become a tavern.
Another option too is that if you proceed with the application as currently written up in the staff recommendation, and if that was to get approved as an accessory use, you would still have the opportunity to come back and submit an application at a later date for what you've indicated that you want to have a tavern. That would be another way of doing this. So you could get a portion approved today for a certain type of use, and then later on could ask to expand that.
Yeah, that's acceptable.
I think then what begs the question though, is has the public been aware of what's actually intended for that space based on what we published? Pardon me? And the other tenants, yeah. Yeah, we would be. But did we understand that this was a drinking establishment even without the hair salon being open?
Madam Chairman, there was, during the discussion a while ago, there was 2 or 3 items that the staff was recommending that the gentleman did not want to agree to, like hours and stuff like that. That's got to be straightened out before we can move forward.
Correct.
I'd also be willing to bet that hardly any of these tenants and the rest of the shopping center know about this.
Yes. In fact, Sarah Bagby from Watermark advocated for us to the other tenants.
Okay, but that needs a clarification as far as I'm concerned on it. But there's some things that are not clear yet, what they agree to and what they don't agree to, regardless of what you call it.
He also wanted some time changes too.
Correct. So do we want to have do we have anyone in chambers who wanted to comment on this item? And did we have anyone, member of the public participating virtually, who wants to comment on this item? Okay. Back to the commission, Commissioner Foster.
I would like to move that we defer this item to April 27th MAPC meeting, and that it be re-advertised with some clarifications as to what exactly we are doing, and that the conditions be adjusted to reflect our discussion.
I second that.
Motion from Commissioner Foster, second from Commissioner McKay. Any further discussion? Commissioner Warren.
We'll make a substitute motion to approve tying it to the salon requirement and changing the hours from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. to 4 p.m. to 1 p.m.
1 a.m.
Or 1 a.m., yes, on the weekends. That's my motion.
Second, just for clarification, the hours would be 4 to 10, Monday through Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday would be 1 o'clock a.m.?
No, we really need to have 4 to
What are the drinking establishment hours generally?
I believe state law and city code, I believe, allows till 2 a.m.
On weekends
Correct.
only?
But there may be a question, legal staff and I were just discussing, if the salon closes at just say 7 o'clock.
Right. Yes.
Could there be another 4 to 5 hours of just serving liquor in an adjacent suite?
And that's the part that we believe the public probably doesn't understand. Yes.
So JR and Jeff, from the staff perspective, is the understanding that the salon needs to be open in order for the alcohol to be served?
Correct. It needs to be accessory to that use.
Right, we have a substitute motion, so the hours adjustment within the substitute motion, then because it's an accessory use, the hours would have to be in keeping with the hours of the salon. And as long as the salon is open, then it could be within state law.
So could you open a salon and take scheduling appointments from 4 o'clock to 2 p.m. or 2 a.m.?
So, yes, you can set the hours to which, you think is appropriate for having the alcohol served. And they can operate the hair salon longer than that, later than that. But the hair salon just has to be open at the same time.
Is the owner okay with that?
Or is the applicant, I suppose it's the applicant that has to understand that's the condition.
The problem with having the salon, because we have the salon on one side on the north space. In the middle of what would be the bar, the drinking establishment, and the salon is our boutique. We sell clothing, jewelry, accessories, purses. I'm afraid of the management of that, with people just being able to run willy-nilly through the.
So it really, okay. Commissioner Aldridge.
Yeah, I'm really confused about this whole thing, and to be honest with you, I just think it'd be cleaner, nicer, safer, legal, and everything else. Is to have staff and the attorney applicant get back together, redo this thing where we know exactly what's gonna happen and not guessing what's gonna happen.
I'm gonna then call the question on the substitute motion, and let's have a roll call vote on the substitute motion, which is to proceed with a vote on approval as an accessory to hair salon, understanding that the hair salon has to be open, but adjusting the hours to meet the state requirements for serving alcohol. Or is that how we end up on that motion? The hours would be the same as the city-state rules, recognizing the hair salon has to be open. Or alcohol could be served when the hair salon is open.
I don't want to get into the rules of what the state says. I'm saying that we've got an application and conditions that are tied to it, and I'm wanting to approve those conditions.
Okay.
If the state wants to get involved on that determination, so.
Okay. Scott.
Clarification question on the motion. So I just want to make sure, because in the conditions that are currently listed in the staff report on page 3, we do have the hours identified as 4 to 10 p.m. And there has been some discussion, so I want to make sure, get a clarification on what the intended hours are as part of the motion.
Will you please clarify what you intend as the hours of operation for for serving alcohol?
I was to extend the closing time to 1 p.m. Extend the closing time to 1 p.m. or 1 a.m.
On weekends.
On weekends and holidays. Fridays and Saturdays and holidays.
Okay. And
that'd be New Year's. If New Year's fell out on Wednesday and you wanted to be open.
And you accept that, the second accepts, and so now I'll call roll call vote on approving the motion on the table.
Yes, ma'am. Fox?
No.
Dool?
No.
McKay?
No.
Green?
Yes.
Bill Johnson is absent. Blick is absent. Nix?
No.
Foster?
No.
Warren?
Yes.
Joe Johnson?
No.
Miles?
No.
Hartman?
No.
Aldridge?
No.
Williams Bay?
No.
Motion fails 10-2. We'll go back to the original motion, which is to defer the case to April 27, requesting cleanup of the location to be authorized for drinking, the hours per discussion with the applicant, and to ensure that we republish this for the benefit of the public. That was the original motion, is that correct? And I have that original motion was put forward by Foster and seconded by McKay. You're both comfortable with my restating of that motion? Okay, then I'll call a roll call vote for the original motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Fox, yes.
Dool?
Yes.
McKay?
Yes.
Green?
Aye.
Bill Johnson is absent. Blick is absent. Nix?
Yes.
Foster?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Joe Johnson,
Aye.
Miles,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Williams Bay.
Aye.
Motion passes 12-0. Thank you. Now we move on, and thank you for your participation and testimony. Now we move to item 5.1, non-public hearing items. I believe Scott is going to make a presentation on short-term rentals.
Thank you, and I will try and keep this one brief. What we are asking for you to do today, the recommended action is for you to set the public hearing for the April 13th Planning Commission meeting to consider changes to the Unified Zoning Code related to short-term rentals. This is an item that has been presented to the Advanced Plans Committee, and they recommended that it go to the full MAPC. At the April 13th meeting, you would be considering not only your core part will be to consider changes and updates to the Unified Zoning Code, but you will also have an opportunity to review and comment on proposed changes to the municipal code related to licensing of short-term rental units, and also changes to the municipal code related to party houses. So I didn't intend to go through the full presentation. I'm more than happy to take any questions or provide any information that you'd like, but it's, again, the recommended action is to set the public hearing.
So moved.
I'll
We have
second that, but
a motion from Commissioner Joe Johnson, a second from Commissioner McKay.
just have a question.
One question?
Scott, you're going to have full disclosure of everything that you're going to present to this committee before it's presented to them, correct?
I was intending to do that at the April 13th meeting, so.
Well, but I mean, we'd kind of like to have it a day or two ahead to kind of go
Oh,
through.
yeah. Yeah,
what I'm
certainly.
talking
We'll send
about.
it as part of the packet, absolutely.
all right.
You'll have complete drafts of what the changes would be with red lines and everything. Yep.
And we'll have that before the April 13th meeting, and the public hearing will be.
That's right. And what it would also, what we can do for you as well is, in the interest of time, we can send you a copy of the link to watch the video from the Advanced Plans presentation. So you'll be able to see that ahead of time as well.
All right, thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 12-0. I do have two quick announcements. And I will find that we've made committee assignment changes. Hugh Nix will transition to the Advanced Plans Committee effective in the month of April, and I will transition to the Subdivision Committee effective in April. So that's just committee appointments I wanted you to be aware of. And then Deborah Foster accepted the appointment to the Sustainability Integration Board as a representative of the MAPC. That's a 2-year appointment. Her appointment expires at the end of this month. And so unless someone would like to contest her appointment, as a landscape architect, it seems like a wonderful role for her to fill. She's willing to continue that appointment for the next 2 years. I would like to make that appointment unless someone is really interested in fighting her for the slot. Seeing none, you are therefore appointed. Deborah Foster, thank you for serving on that commission.
You can sustain your membership.
Right, you may sustain your sustainability membership. With that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Oh, do you have another item? Okay, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Jeff?